I have the ability to say, I'm sorry, but I don't have time to work on that. And maybe I don't have time to work on it, but maybe I don't want to work with that person, or I don't want to work on that project. And I think my opinion is that no amount of money is going to make you happy with the work that you're doing. And you can love design all day long, but if you don't have clients, you're kind of nowhere. So somewhere in the mix of that is, having those good relationships and like showing up. And then you get to work on the things you want to work on, which is such a blessing.
Welcome to the Designer's Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Kate Bendewald, interior designer, mama, and CEO of a thriving interior design business built on authentic word-of-mouth referrals. It wasn't that long ago that I stepped away from my corporate architecture job to build my own dream, one that would allow me more time with the people that I love, the ability to serve my clients at the highest level, and to make a great living. It wasn't always easy, and I've made my share of mistakes along the way. Fast forward to today, and I've learned a thing or two. This podcast is for you, the inspired, creative, ambitious, and let's admit it, occasionally overwhelmed interior designer who shares this dream of transforming lives by transforming homes. Join me and my guest each week as we walk through practical ways to build an interior design business you love and helps you transform your clients' lives. You can do this. Thank you for letting me spend part of this day with you. Let's get to it. Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Designer's Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Kate Bendewald. Today, we are joined by my dear friend, Karlin Vaessen of Merit Born Architecture. Karlin and I first met over a decade ago when we worked at Oz Architecture. Since then, she went on to co-found an architecture firm doing work primarily in the hospitality industry. And in the last year, Karlin launched her own architecture studio in an effort to bring more flexibility to her life while raising her young son. To me, Karlin is one of the most confident and competent women I know, and today she shares her journey of coming into her own. We talk about the value of not only honing your process, but sticking to it, even when clients want you to take shortcuts. We also talk about the value it brings to your life personally when working with only the kinds of projects and clients that light you up, and really owning the value that you bring to your clients and their projects. What I love is that, especially if you're just starting out, this interview can help you future pace your career, meaning you can view this as the goal. If you don't yet have the luxury of working with only the clients and projects that light you up, I hope this sets the stage of what is possible and what you can work toward. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please welcome my friend, Karlin. All right, we did it. We did it. Yes. Here we are. Yes, tenacity is the number one character of running your own business.
There you go.
How are you, my beautiful friend?
I'm great. It's Friday. It's kind of sunny for a change, and I feel like it's going to be a good weekend. How about you?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I love Fridays. I purposely keep them chill. I usually will record some podcast episodes with some friends, hang out. I'm trying to work half days on Fridays. So yeah, it's good. I'm looking forward. We just, as you know, we just had this bitter cold and snow just fly through for the last couple of days, but it's going to be 60 this weekend. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Same, girl.
Awesome. Okay, well, welcome. So for those of you, we're recording, by the way, ABR, always be recording. So for those of you listening, I am joined by my dear friend, Karlin. Karlin is an architect, and she and I met when we were working at Oz Architecture a few thousand years ago, it seems like.
Feels like it.
Oh my gosh. I have to admit, I don't know if I've ever admitted this to you, but I had such a girl crush on you when we worked there. You were you were so cute. So you like there was this sort of dynamic, and I don't know if you had the same experience, but I felt this way, that was like the interior designers and the architects, and it was like almost this weird hierarchy feeling, but I never got that feeling from you. And also you would just like walk in with like the Brad, we're gonna need to bleep some things out, fucking hottest outfits on, but still like professional and cute, and just like all these like, I'm sorry, but like typical architects that we worked with like their mock turtlenecks and wire rimmed glasses and just like dominated by men. And then there was Karlin, and I was like, who is this hot girl? I want to know her and I want to be her friend. And then I'm glad that ended up happening. But yeah, that's my confession to you.
Well, the feeling was mutual. I think there's definitely a feeling like we do this and you do that, and it should be integrated, right? Like so much of what we do should be collaborative, should be integrated.
Yeah.
And honestly, true story, designers are more fun than architects. And I can say that because I am one. So I was like, how do I get to hang out with those people? They get to drink wine during the day. They have all these product reps come in and they're doing, they have like the coolest fabric samples. Let's do this. Let's work together.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. How was that working for you? Cause okay, so we met at Oz, and then you went on to, I don't actually know the full story of Neo Studios and all that. So let's get into it. But I just want to hear from you, kind of being this woman, this, in my opinion, relatively young woman in this world of like dominated by white male architects.
Mm-hmm.
Was that ever, did you ever find yourself having to kind of like take up more space than some of these other folks, or was that all pretty natural, or, did that not feel like a thing for you? What was your experience like?
I've never been one to take up too much space. Even right now, talking about myself is a little uncomfortable. I'm not used to it.
Wait a second. That may be how you feel on the inside, but that is not how you present. I just see this.
Yes,
like,
that's right.
Big badass one.
Rule number one: fake it till you make it. No, it's definitely a male-dominated culture, our industry. My mentors were largely male, my colleagues, and then of course the clients, right? Mostly male. It's never really been an issue for me. I sort of felt like you lead with your competency, right? So you show up prepared, know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. If you don't ask the right questions, that kind of thing. And eventually you establish your worth in the group. Have I been exposed to my fair share of condescension, or being on a job site and being the only female and saying, I don't think this is built correctly, I don't think it's going to drain right, and having the contractor put his hand on your shoulder and say, are you sure you saw that right? It's like, well, I can't help you because it's built, and it's not right. But you just again lead with your competency, and it works itself out. But I'm sure there's a lot of that out there. So I almost feel like sometimes it's an advantage because you're unique. And I believe in the power of lipstick and a smile. I think being gracious is always a good thing. So I don't know if it worked for me, but I don't think it worked against me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. Such a kind of a different way to look at it, instead of looking at it as this thing that you have to overcome, flipping the script and being like, no, actually this is your superpower. And you can lead by example without being a dick, without being, rude or condescending. But having the knowledge and expertise to back that up never hurts. So
it's interesting because confidence is it's such a strong rhetoric, right? But like I've also seen the flip side. When people are overly confident, it's maybe not the best idea. But so you walk the line, because what we do is subjective. So it's making sure that everybody's on board with the idea, right? You're not like going rogue. But I think if you focus too much on the drawbacks in this industry, you're not going to feel real good about what you're doing. You have to you have to love it. And in my opinion, love the people that you work with, right? Love the collaboration, because that's our process, right? We need to work with the people to get the best solutions. And that involves not just the client, but like our reps and our designers and our contractors and all the people that put together good ideas come from everywhere. Yeah. So it's not like we're the savior. It's like we're aggregating the best solutions, right?
Yes.
It's almost like we're big problem solvers. So if you can come to the table with a creative idea, people will respect that and go, oh, I didn't think about it that way. But, even if you don't end up using the idea, it's like, oh, that person is coming with a creative idea. And next time, maybe that's going to help me not have to scrap a whole design or rip out a cabinet, right?
Yeah.
We can make it work.
Yeah. My wheels are turning. I was interviewing somebody and we were having a similar discussion, and it's just like, sometimes, especially when you're establishing a new relationship and you're in those early phases, it pays to just like really intentionally step out and look for opportunities to make sure that they feel like they have a voice at the table. And that like, it's not the Karlin show. It's not the Kate show. It's like, we have the end goal we all have the best interest in mind is the end goal, and keeping that, in focus is so important. But yeah, we were talking about egos and how they can sometimes get in the way if you're not, really working to establish those early. I'm currently GCing my own kitchen renovation. And so we've had a number of trades coming in and wrapping up quotes and whatnot. And I can't tell you how many times these folks are so taken back when I'm like, I've definitely put thought into the design, right? I've poured over the details. But when I come in and I'm like, yeah, but I want to, it's really important to me. If you see opportunities to do things better, I want to hear about those. Let's throw ideas at the wall, because, some things will stick, not everything will. And I think they appreciate that just gesture of letting them know that they, those opinions matter. Sometimes we're not always extended that same grace in other scenarios, but
you create buy-in, right? You create buy-in to the design, even though it's your design and, it's your maybe like IP, but it's the product is everybody's product. And so you want the buy-in. So I think, it's a great part of the process. And I'm big into process. Don't mess with my process.
Oh my gosh. We just jumped right into it. I want to back up a little bit. Let's rewind. Okay. I want to know your background. I want to know, how did you come to the field of architecture? I know you had some really cool educational experiences, and kind of walk us through your creative and architectural career.
Yeah. So I had a mom who was in the travel industry and a dad who was in resort construction. He was an owner's rep. And so we traveled a lot when I was young internationally, and went to mostly warm weather resorts, but like lived in a lot of places. And I was exposed to design early, lots of different cultures, lots of different ideas about form and all these different things. So I think that sort of started the spark for design. I was always pretty good at school. I got good grades and applied myself. I was a good girl. But I had an art teacher in high school who I think he was honestly just jacked on the idea that somebody cared about art and might go into that field. And he said, oh, you could be an architectural renderer. And I remember him telling me how much money those folks make and the type of product that they produce. These at the time was like hand drawings, because I've always been into drawing and painting and the arts in general. And he wrote down the figures, like how much money I could make. I think he was like excited that I might apply myself to this thing. And I remember looking and thinking, well, I could do the drawing, but I want to do the design and the drawing. Like, why can't I do the whole thing? And so being stubborn as I am, decided to go to school for architecture and toughed it out. It's not for the faint of heart. So when I got out of school, I got a job at a big corporate firm SOM in Chicago and was doing like really big work, and I was sort of a cog in the machine. But
so for those of you listening, SOM is Skidmore, Owens and Merrill, and they're like, what are some of the projects that they're known for? Like some of the biggest.
Oh, the Sears Tower, or in the John Hancock Building in Chicago.
Yeah,
the Birds Dubai.
Iconic. Yeah, the bird's nest. They did the bird's nest.
They did the Burj Dubai.
Oh, I thought you said the bird.
At the time was the tallest building in the world.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Other like little architectural gems like the Inland Steel Building, and later I think One Freedom Tower in New York, that was post me. And I'm not saying I'm responsible for all these projects, but that's the I say this because I want to put a finer point on the scale of this. Yeah, right. Big scale, big business.
And that was your first job out of college?
It was, yeah.
Didn't you study in France?
I did. I went to Georgia Tech in Atlanta, and I studied for a year in France in a French American atelier. So we went to the École de la Villette in Paris and studied with French people. So it was really cool, and we went to like obviously all the classical landmarks, but also all of the kind of modern gems that exist in the Paris area. And so, I mean, some of the reason I went to that school was because I knew I would get to go to Paris my junior year. So,
you've got your priorities in order.
Yes. I mean, I with the design bug, I got the travel bug. So yeah. So I went to work for this great big firm, and I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted to do, or necessarily what, how you went about doing it. Right. I learned, in school, you learn a little bit of how to draw and things like that, but you do a lot of conceptual work, and in my case, not a lot of applied work. And so I didn't really know exactly what I was getting into. And I think as we talk, you'll see that as my career went on, I went from a bigger firm to a progressively smaller firm, and now maybe the smallest firm. But it suits, the nice thing is I've tried all the different kind of, not all, but a lot of different work environments and scales. Mm-hmm. And there are benefits to all of them, right? Like a large firm has like great resources and lots of interesting people and ideas, and amazing project types and varied project types.
That was my experience at Oz, and having come from my first job out of college partially while I was in college, was very small boutique high-end residential interior design company studio. That the reason Oz was drawn to me was because my experience there gave me the opportunity to create really custom, one-of-a-kind pieces. But yet I was kind of doing I was doing a little bit of everything. And then I switched to this larger firm. And like you just mentioned, first of all, the people was the best part of the job. But the resources, but that's really where I cut my teeth. And I am so grateful for that experience. It didn't serve me it wasn't a fit for me in the long term, but I would never take that experience back, because it gave me a totally different perspective and a set of skills that has served me.
Absolutely. It's like the foundation. You learn the foundational skills, and frankly, one day, if you look at your boss or your mentor, this didn't necessarily happen to me there, but you look at your boss or your mentor and say, well, I don't want to be like that when I grow up. It's probably time to move on, right? It's probably time to try something different.
Yeah. So then, so you worked for them. You found yourself next at Oz? Is that?
Yeah. So I was working at SOM. I had a wonderful mentor. I learned all these great kind of the rules of the road, I would say. But I wanted better balance. And so I moved out here. A lot of my friends from Chicago moved out to Denver. We all like to ski and snowboard and wanted a little more life work balance, and found it, honestly. So then I started working for Oz. I had a wonderful mentor at Oz, and I was given, he was great because he gave me enough rope to hang myself with. Right. So initially, when you're a small cog in a big corporate wheel, you put your head down. You don't, believe it or not, Kate, ask a lot of questions or rock the boat. When you're me, you just sort of like work really, really hard and try to suck up all the information. And then, when I went to Oz, I was given a lot more exposure to clients and ability to sort of do things more my own way. We sort of operated like a smaller studio in a larger firm. And that was a great experience for me. And then my mentor left the company and I sort of learned how things went. And it actually was the best thing for me and the most formative thing for me. I mean, I love my mentors and my colleagues, my experience. You sort of gain something from every project and every person that you work with. But in this case, I sort of learned that it wasn't working for me anymore there. I kind of wanted more autonomy and more ability to do my own thing. Just because the system exists or the process exists doesn't mean it's your process and your system. And I think the more experience you have and the more, frankly, I sort of deferred a lot to the people around me. And once I put myself out there, I learned, I can think on the fly and I have good ideas too. In this industry, it's hard not to get paralyzed by, wow, I wish I had thought of that idea, or that's such a cool design. Maybe I don't have a cool design like that. It's like, no, there's space for all the different types of design, all the different size of firms, all the, different types of people and perspectives. So that was really good for me. So I left Oz after I think 9 or 10 years and started my own company, Neo Studio, with 2 people, 2 partners. And, it was a science project. I don't think we had a goal in mind when we started the company. We just knew we had clients that wanted to work with us and we weren't necessarily able to do it the way we wanted to in the larger infrastructure of Oz. So, I mean, I'm real proud of what we built. We did a lot of different kinds of projects. I recently left Neo Studio and started my very own company.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's really what I want to get to too, because that is like, I first of all, I just learned some things about you that I didn't know. I thought you were born with confidence because you just wear it like a glove when I see you and know you, but it makes sense that you had all of these experiences that kind of have led you to this place. But okay, so and how long were you running Neo?
I was there for 9 years too.
Oh my gosh. In what kind of projects were you doing there?
So we left Oz with 2 clients that kind of just wanted to work with our little group. One was Vail Resorts and the other one was a private developer out of Aspen who was a really small family run business, but wanting to do really big work. And so we were doing high-rise projects for them. It's sort of crazy to think about this tiny firm of 3 people. So we did some resort work. We did quite a bit of resort work, and then also like private development, condos and high-rise apartments. And then my background is in multifamily. A lot of my work at Oz was multifamily. So I always I like residential, multifamily residential, because it's a little bit of everything, right? It's like, it's residential, but it's also hospitality, and it's a little bit of like all the different things. So it's kind of a fun,
especially today, because as you know, multifamily developments now are really lifestyle based, and a lot of them will have, hangout spaces, work
amenities, right?
All the amenities that are so luxurious and so fun. And I'm like, I can see myself once my kids are like grown and out of the house and moved out, like just shoring up at one of these places and having a fast pass to the airport. Like they have everything. And they take care of it all. Hey designer, are you tired of wasting precious time with prospective clients who are not a right fit? Do you experience imposter syndrome because the back end of your business is kind of a hot mess? Perhaps you're experiencing growing pains and you don't have the tools, resources, or team to support you. I get it. I've been there. As an ambitious interior design business owner myself, I know the roller coaster ride this can be. Over the years, I've learned a thing or two about running a profitable word of mouth design business, and I want to help you find success too. How would it feel to wake up and face the day knowing exactly what to focus on next, having a roster of enthusiastic clients, including a paid waitlist, and having the space, time, and creative energy to develop projects that you are proud of and are portfolio, if not press worthy? I want to invite you to learn more about the Interior Designer's Business Blueprint, a business coaching program designed exclusively for interior designers who want to serve their clients at the highest level while making good money, but without the burnout and overwhelm. If you're ready to get off the roller coaster, you don't have to do it alone. Join me inside the Interior Designer's Business Blueprint and get the tools, teaching, and community you need to pave the way for an interior design business your clients love and you are proud of. To learn more, grab the link on your audio player or head to designersoasis.com/blueprint. That's designersoasis.com/blueprint. Interesting. So then you recently, just in this last year, right?
Yeah.
Have
Last
gone
year,
out,
yeah.
gone out on your own. How has that been for you?
Well, some of it was, I had some family stuff going on and I needed I had flexibility and I had flexibility because I own the company, right? But I also had several employees and I ran the business and I felt like a very big sense of responsibility for kind of keeping the machine going. And I think for me, last year, I just needed to sort of take a step back. I reevaluated my priorities and said, I have a little kid who's 4, a son, and with all the things I needed ultimate flexibility. And with that, it was really wonderful. Just saying to myself, I've always done it this way, but now my life requires this. So I'm going to just take my time and think about, every piece of the business, invoicing, project setup, drawing sets, whatever. Why am I doing it like this? Is there a better way? And it's actually yielded a really good result for me. I feel like I have a wonderful balance right now. And it's because I'm doing things, based on my experience in a really smart way.
Let's talk about that some more because there's a couple of things I want to tackle. One is, this comes back to the confidence thing. Like when I hear you talk, like when we get together and we are talking shop, I love that you really have come into your own in this way, that you have a process that you will not waver on because you know that it works. And you have a very strong sense of what kind of projects you want to take on. And within those, what kind of things you are willing to do and not do. So I think this is really important, especially for young designers, even if that's not something that you have the luxury of doing just yet. To me, this is the goal. And so I think if you could just talk to, as if you were mentoring a younger designer, young business owner, talk about how, what are some of those benefits that it's yielded you and why is it so important? And, what are the steps to kind of get there? I'm just going to sit back and let you talk about all that. No, let's start with telling me specifically about your process, kind of in a nutshell, and why that's so important and why you're so adamant about protecting that.
Well, I think my big realization as of late in this new company is valuing your service and valuing your process. And I think it's really easy to, you have people who come in and say, oh, I really need this done next week. Or, oh, I really want to work with you, but you just have to cut your fee by 20%. And I think, right? This happens all the time. And I think that, there are times when that's appropriate. Good design takes time. And so I don't know about this week. I always think, well, what were you doing a month ago? Because it's going to take a month to do it,
Yeah.
But I think, the valuing your process, I think there's a few things about it. First of all, it shows your confidence. If a client comes to you and says, oh, well, I know we usually do this, but let's cut out these phases because we don't really have time to do them. And I want you to work directly with so-and-so, even though, typically we would work together or whatever that looks like. And it's like, no, this is my process. This is why it's like this.
Mhm.
And what happens is often when you compromise, it doesn't go well. And a client is left with the impression that it didn't go well, but they don't remember why it did. They don't remember that it was their idea, right? All they know is it didn't go well. And from their side, so, in an industry that's so referral based, it's like, 100% of my work is referral based. I don't market. I don't reply to RFPs because I haven't had to, because, you sort of, we'll get into that, but that's a boom, right? Like you don't have to sell yourself because somebody tells somebody else that, oh, this person was, easy to work with or made things happen or whatever that is. I find that when I think people respect you more when you respect your own process and when you value your services. When you say, oh yeah, I'll do it for you for 20% less, you've just devalued the product that you're providing.
Yes.
To your client, and you've set the precedent for them when and if they refer you that, oh, Karlin works cheap and we'll give you a discount, and then all your fees are 20% off. So it's a line you have to walk, right? I think if you're working for a nonprofit that you feel really strongly about, great, or a good friend, I do that kind of stuff all the time, those kind of discounts. But I think if you have conviction about why you're worth it, the client will follow suit and will respect you for it. That's my experience.
That's no way to start a project is by devaluing yourself. It just won't
Right.
go well. Yeah. I was recently recording, I think it was a podcast episode, and I was talking about how I had, I'd skipped a really important step in my process. And this was not by request of the client, but I've always said, like, the process works. It works for a reason. Stick to your process. And then, I found myself, I didn't take my own advice. And it was because I'd worked for these clients twice before. And they just wanted this small little piece of their house project sort of done. It wasn't a very big project. It was people that I had worked with before. I knew the house. I knew kind of their budget. So I felt like I already had a lot of the information. So what I did is I skipped the consultation and I just sent them a proposal for what it was. And it ended up being a total nightmare. First of all, the clients themselves, it had always been a little bit of like walking on eggshells, but they were also like, they paid their bills. They were easier to work with for the most part, but they always felt a little bit eggshelly to me. and I didn't like, I didn't listen to that intuition. I let that go. I skipped a consultation. And what I later realized was that, the budget that they had given me and the scope were not in alignment. And so had I done the consultation, had I stuck to my process, that information probably would have come into focus and we would never have either chosen to work together because I would have said, this isn't realistic for what you're wanting to do, or found another way or revised the budget. Instead, figuring that out down the line didn't bode well for the relationship. And at this point, those eggshells became glass, and it was like,
oh yeah,
oh wow, this is really it was a combination of me not doing, sticking to my intuition and my gut, but then also just dealing with irrational people. So it was one of those gut wrenching moments. It's just like, how did I find myself here? Like, I'm a professional. I've been doing this for years, and
yeah,
you sort of like find yourself questioning everything. And it was like, okay, let's take a minute here. Everything's fine. But sticking to your process is just a really important aspect of to be showing your value. And then, ensuring that when people do ask you, unless, like you just mentioned, there's some good reasons for it, not compromising on your fees. And if your fees aren't a match, then sometimes there's other ways that you can work around that, whether that's phasing something in over time or changing the scope,
right,
but not changing your process.
right. And I think I've been in a situation where I wanted to work on the project and I was this person was hard pressing for a cheaper fee. And I finally got up the guts to say, I really want to work with you on this, but I know how difficult the process is going to be with the city. I know what work it entails, and I respect if you want to reach out to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish you the best of luck.
Mm-hmm.
And the response was, no, I'll pay it. I want to work. You know what I mean? I do.
Yeah,
I really do think that. I really do think that people respect that and will follow suit. And if they don't, it's sort of foreshadowing for what might be to come potentially. So it's a fine line, of course, but I think that's the other piece of this new way of doing business for me, which is, I try to be the person that people want to work with. And as a result, have had the ability to just take the projects with the people that I want to work with. Yeah. And you don't always know, but I think, and so when I say be the person people want to work with, for me, it's not ego driven. It's not, oh, I'm the best designer, or, it's more about knowing your core competencies, understanding the goals, and then all the important, keeping good relationships, showing up on time, doing what you say you're going to do, all of those things. It's remarkable, but apparently that's not industry standard. And so when you follow through with stuff and you are the person people want to work with, you end up having more work than you necessarily need or can do. And so, I have the ability to say, I'm sorry, but I don't have time to work on that. And maybe I don't have time to work on it, but maybe I don't want to work with that person, or I don't want to work on that project. And I think my opinion is that no amount of money is going to make you happy with the work that you're doing. And you can love design all day long, but if you don't have clients, you're kind of nowhere. So somewhere in the mix of that is, having those good relationships and showing up. And then you get to work on the things you want to work on, which is such a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so many things I want to tag on to what you just said. I'm like, focus, Kate. So one of the things that you're alluding to is kind of these core values. And what I'm hearing is integrity and, showing up, knowing your core competencies, doing what you say you're going to do. I feel like there are a lot of designers who, especially, they've reached this almost tipping point of, there's the early days of like, where's my next client going to come from? And then, you start to build this rapport, and then you start to get more work, and the work keeps rolling in. And then there's this moment, and I'm speaking from experience, where, earlier you were able to maintain your communications and your timeline and your schedule and your, all of the client nurturing that we do. But when you start to get to a point where you've got more work than you know what to do with, and you feel like you're drowning, that we kind of fester in that place for way too long. And what happens is what you just talked about is it's when you end up showing up with half of the work done that you're supposed to have done, or not getting back to people in a timely manner. And to me, what I teach is experience is everything. Every single touch point matters. And if you can give your client a rock solid experience, that is your golden ticket to referral based work and repeat clients.
Yep.
And if you stay in that place for too long, where you're wallowing in work and you're letting things fall through the crack, all of that is at risk, right? You're at risk for having people, drag your name and your brand through the mud, and you don't want to do that. And there is this integrity that is appreciated by clients. And I see you holding that kind of front and center for yourself, which is no surprise to me. But as you mentioned, it turns out it's not industry standard. So,
apparently, because like I said, there's always going to be other designers doing amazing work, and it's impossible not to compare yourself and say, because I struggle with this, working under other folks and going, well, I don't know if I would have thought to say that in that meeting, or if I would have come up with that design solution. And at some point you've got to just go for it. I mean, you have to put yourself out there, or you're not going to get there for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's super important to just know your own skill sets. Like, it's not about the other folks, right? It's about, what do I do well? Do I present really well to the client? Am I good at putting together boards? Bolster yourself where you're not strong. Like, for me, it's tech. Kate experienced this earlier. I'm not a tech person, and I don't claim to be one, right? I'm still learning. Like, I came up in the industry and I knew CAD and I was really good at CAD, but I didn't come up using Revit. And like, I just taught myself to use Revit, and I continue to teach myself to use Revit, right? Like, it's a process. It's not like all of a sudden I'm great at it, but I'm always learning new things. But anyway, certain things that aren't my skill set, and you go, okay, how can I basically play to your skill set and get help where you know you need it. But don't try to be something you're not, because that is transparent, right?
Yes, absolutely. And just trying to do everything is just unrealistic. And I know that that's for young designers is at times just a necessity. And it is important that you learn how to do certain things to a degree, but you don't need to be doing those same things forever. You made an example earlier, and tell me if it's not okay to share this. We don't have to name names, but like, you don't want to do site surveys. You want to, can you kind of retell that a little bit in your own words?
Yeah. So I got a call. I like doing like little small retail projects. I've done big work, and I've done all the sizes in between. And I love working on these little retail projects that have like fun, cute design. And I got a call to do a project that was, I guess I can say, was an ice cream shop. And I got the sense, they were in a hurry and they had ideas about the design, but they didn't really know how they were going to execute it. And I think, they wanted to kind of do it their way, which is, understandable. And they wanted this right away, and they wanted the site survey. And I was thinking, oh no, how can I do this for them? Can I download a scanning software? And how am I going to do this so that I can help them and be inexpensive? And I'm thinking, like, what am I doing? This is not a good use of my time, right? I don't have the software. I don't have the capability. I would like to just hire a laser scanner and pay whatever the price is to do that, because it's going to be a better product than I can deliver. Mm-hmm. And ultimately I proposed that, and they decided against it. And so what that told me was that they probably weren't investing in the project in the way that I felt was necessary to get the best product. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of that. And that's okay. Like, they're going to do their process in their way. And would I like to work on it? Yeah, super fun and cool. But like, maybe I find things come around sometimes. Yeah. Unfortunately, sometimes they come around when they're already a mess. And not in this case, but like sometimes you get something handed to you like, well, we're behind schedule.
Pick up the pieces.
And we didn't like the last architect we worked with. So and it's like, oh, this doesn't sound like a positive idea. But yeah, I mean, I think listening to your gut, right? Yeah. That didn't sound like a good process to me. It didn't sound like the right use of my time. Yeah. I proposed a solution I thought was the best, and they didn't agree, and that's okay. And
there's an architect / designer for them that will do it, the way that they want within their budget. And
or they could wing it. They could wing it. I know what happens when you wing it. I don't want to wing it anymore. Yeah. I can, but I want to.
I know. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been presented with projects that just seemed, the project itself so cool, like such great opportunity, but it's one or the other, right? Whenever I say no to a project, it has to be both the project lights you up and the people light you up. If one of those things isn't working, it's probably not a good idea, because when I've had times where a project will come through the door and it just is like, it's a juicy project. You're like, oh my gosh, this would be so fun. But the people, there's something off there. There's something that's not right. Or it's, the people are amazing. They were referred to. They're so cool. You'd love to work with them. They're great people. But the project just isn't a fit, like sure, I can space plan, but if that's all I'm going to do, I'm not interested in that. That's, call a kitchen designer to help you with your layout, right? I want to do the whole thing. Like, I'm not going to piecemeal this. So they both have to be in alignment. When
I was going to say a good school of thought on this that I've heard is, if it's not hell yes, then it's no.
It's a hell no.
Right?
Yes.
Period. Like, it's not like, oh, well, I'd like to get this in my portfolio, but the price isn't right, and I don't have enough time to do it. It's like, well, it's probably not going to work out to be a good project in your portfolio if all the things aren't in alignment, right?
Yeah. How important is building your portfolio to you right now at this stage of where you are?
It's not, because I've done it, right? It's not super important. However, now I have an idea of the types of projects that I like doing. So, I mean, I like doing hospitality projects. I've been doing hotel renovations actually quite a bit. And renovations seem to be something that have come to me quite a bit. And, it's almost the hardest project type, because you never know what you're going to find beneath the surface. So it's a bit of an archaeological dig, but there's some interest in that, right? Like there's that problem solving and that creativity that come into play. But yeah, for me, so I'm still building. I think you're always building that side of your practice when you're in the design industry. It's not like, oh, I've done enough restaurants. It's like, no, I want to do a ramen restaurant, and I want to do a conveyor belt sushi plate, whatever it is,
Yes.
Sort of like, if you're really excited about what you do, then there's never enough projects. But like I said, sometimes when the recipe isn't right, it's a terrible pun, I guess. When the recipe is not right in terms of, the team and the things that we've been talking about, it might be good to take a miss on it. But I think building your breadth of experience is so important. And for me, I never wanted to specialize in anything. I never wanted to be the hospital architect or the strip mall architect. You know what I mean? I really feel like every kind of design informs the other kind of design, because the built environment is so integrated. It's not like we only go to hospitals or we only go to apartment projects or whatever. And so that's really been my excitement about working in our industry, is like being able to do all kinds of different things and letting one project type inform the other and bring like new ideas, like you were talking about with amenities to public spaces, or to the public spaces of multifamily projects and things like that.
Well, I want to dive into creativity for just a second, because you got me thinking about this. What is your point of view on design? Like if somebody walks into a space that you've designed, what does that feel like if you were to give it sort of an ethos? What does a Karlin space want to be?
Oh, this is interesting. I think, it's timeless. I think it is responsive to the needs of the client and the operation of the space. Right. It's purpose-driven design. It's not, I want to put this light somewhere, so I'm going to put this right. I mean, I think all the pieces have to work together, and the building has to work. It's not always about how it looks. It has to work. So timeless, purpose-driven. I don't know. I mean, I think when you're creative, you can do all kinds of different styles. So I wouldn't like get stuck on a style, but I think it's, I think it's got to be fun in some way or another. It's got to be fun. It's got to have like a quirky detail, because that's kind of me. I am a quirky detail.
Oh my gosh.
I am the embodiment. But yeah, it's got to be timeless. It has to work, and it's, it's smart, and it's probably simple. I think the best design is not overwrought.
Yeah. I love that. I was just interviewing another friend of mine who is an interior designer, and I love hearing people's point of views on design, because even though like just hearing you and her, there's some similarities, but also differences. And I think it's so important that designers are, really start to think about their point of view on design early and know that it will evolve. I know for me early on, I was struggling with this idea of like, do I want to be this designer that's known for a particular look, right? Or do I want to be known for somebody that can flex, And one of my very first projects was this mid-century modern home, which was definitely a project I took out of a necessity for experience. But as soon as I put that on my website, I started getting all these calls from people who had mid-century modern homes. And while I have an appreciation for that era, I didn't want to be the mid-century modern designer. I was like, I want to be known for like use of color and texture and pattern and I do like more layered spaces. I like old spaces. I like history. And so I had to be very intentional about sort of pivoting that story in my brand. But it's funny how you can very quickly get sort of known to be one thing, and that could be known for your discounts, like you were just mentioning. So you got to take these opportunities very carefully and thoughtfully, and think long term how they can sort of impact you. And if you're going to spend a year if you're a young designer and you're going to spend a year or 2 or 3 on a project that you can't put in your portfolio because it's not something you relate to or you want to be known for, why would you spend the time on that project? I think.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I don't consider myself young. I've been working in this industry for 25 years. So
you look like you're 25, just so you know. I want those jeans.
But yeah, I think even as somebody with a portfolio or somebody that's changed careers, for instance, it's like you kind of have to shift how you look at things and go, why am I doing it this way? Right? What do I want to be doing this? And I think, to respond to what you said, it's like, those are the pitfalls of doing a good job, right? Like you might become the sought after mid-century designer, even if you don't want to be, but like, I would consider that a win because you obviously did a great job. And so, like I said, the referrals and the calls that come in that aren't related to marketing, it's kind of like validation, right? On the best level.
Yeah. Well, I stand strongly, and I will die on the hill of give your clients a good experience, make it easy for them, and also do good work. But those are,
and I think there's an education component, right? I think like people watch HGTV and think they know what design is, and they don't know how you do what you do or why you're doing it. They don't know how you come up with the idea or how you put the things together. And so some of that is like making them feel like they're part of the process, right? And they're integrated into the process. So you've got that buy-in. Mm-hmm. But in order to get there, you have to convince them that it's worth going on that ride with you. I think that's a big thing. And then you can pick the styles that you want to do and
and hopefully that's a short walk for you, the convincing piece. Like you don't want to have to drag anybody through the mud to do that. But definitely I appreciate that reminder that there is a good amount of educating that is involved in the work that we do. And that goes back to process and sticking to your process. I want to wrap up with a couple of last questions. Going back to just like lifestyle and work life balance, as trite as that phrase is, you're a mom, right? You're a business owner, you're married to a wonderful husband. We love him too.
My tech advisor. Yes.
he gets to tag along to you to occasional happy hours with us. What has this process of starting your own business and being really picky about the projects you take and the people that you work with done for you in terms of just making space for the things that are important besides your career?
Well, I'm really empowered, right? Like it's 100% my choice, my work, my path. So, I mean, I think it's hard not to feel completely invested and completely satisfied when you have ultimate flexibility and you have ultimate agency with the direction of your career, right? So now, I mean, my goal, to be frank, was to work a little bit less and but to still work and to still do
No
the
need to
projects I
apologize for
want.
that.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like I was I mean, my whole career I've been hustling.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hustle less, but do it in a smarter way so that, you know, my income didn't change, my experience and my impact on the built environment didn't change. But I also can put my child to bed and I can be on the board of his school. And, you know, if he stays home sick, I can be with him. I took him skiing the other day and I sat in the lodge and did a conference call with 10 people from City of Denver zoning department. So as long as I mean, if you are ultimately invested, you find a way to do those things. Am I balancing things great? I don't know. Probably not, you know, probably not the best, but am I doing it? Yeah. And I'm so like, I'm really happy with what I've done. And this may not be the end for me. This may not be the final chapter, right? Maybe I'll decide I want to go work at a firm. I can't imagine it right now, but
you won't. Hint.
But for me right now, it's like wonderful. I love working from home. I love having all that flexibility and I still get to do these, you know, I'm like, my mind is boggled when people call and say, oh, you know, like we're doing this big project. Do you want to work on it? And I am almost, I'm like, well, it's just me. And I'm, you know, I have help, but this is what I'm doing right now. And they're like, yeah, whatever. When do you want to start? Right.
Yeah.
So I feel really lucky. And I feel like, you know, you hustle to get established and to get your portfolio. And then, you know, you are allowed at least that's been my path. And then you're allowed the flexibility to sort of do and I had children later in life. So, or a child. So, you know, it's worked out really great for me because now I have the resources to sort of like spend more time doing things and be right. I don't have to take every job. I don't have to work morning, noon, and night, all, you know, all the things. Although there's nothing wrong with that. And that's probably a great way to be successful. Just for me right now, it's smart to take a step back.
Yeah, no.
And forward at the same time.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't, it depends on how you're looking at it. Taking a step back to take a step forward. That might be the name of this episode.
Right.
Oh gosh, I love it. Well, I think
learning the hard way. I mean, because all of these little nuggets are as a result of not listening to my gut, not sticking with my skill set, not trusting, you know, my instinct. And when I put myself out there that I would do, or, you know, do the thing the right way. And so I always learn from experience. And I think I'm in a good place.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think everything I'm hearing right now is so important to help designers future pace themselves and to kind of know that, you know, there's going to be seasons where you're going to need to work really hard and it's going to feel hard, but it definitely shouldn't be that way forever. And if it is, there's something wrong. That there's, you know, value in having a little bit of grit, you know, failing forward, figuring things out the hard way. I think normalizing that from somebody who is as experienced as you are is really refreshing. And so I appreciate it. Speaking of work-life balance, you have a spin class to get to. I want to make sure you get there. So can I give you 3 rapid fire questions? And I purposely did not send these to you in advance. Okay. I love you for this. In one word, good design is
simple.
Love it. One book that has changed my life is
I really love The Goldfinch, but I can't say for any particular reason.
Oh, I have not read that. I will put it on my list.
Get on it, girl. So good.
Awesome. Love it. The one thing I'm most looking forward to right now is, I bet I can guess.
Besides spin class?
Besides spin class.
I think going on spring break with my family.
fun. Where are you guys going to go?
We're going to go to Palm Springs, and I've never been there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. You told me about this. It sounds fabulous. Well, I was going to guess moving into your new home, because you guys are in the middle of building your labor of love, building your own custom home, which sounds like so much fun and so much work, especially during the challenges we've had with the building industry this last couple of years. But
a separate therapy session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Karlin, I just want to say thank you so much. You've been a delight to hang out with today. I appreciate it. I love it. Where can people find you online if they want to learn more?
So my company is called meritborn, meritborn.com. Yeah, we're still working on getting all that up and running, but stay tuned for more. And thank you for having me. It's always a delight to talk with you.
Awesome. Sounds good. We'll tell the family I said hi. I love you, and I'll talk soon. Go
care.
spin.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for letting me spend part of this day with you. If you're loving this podcast, please share it with a friend who you think might also love it. Or perhaps you can take just 30 seconds to open your podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating. And if you have just an extra minute, go ahead and leave a review. This helps me so much, and it helps other designers like you to find the podcast. It also adds fuel to my motivation to keep making great episodes just for you. However you choose to help, please know I appreciate you so very much. Thank you, my friend. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.